Japan's elderly are apparently as lonely as everyone else, and they're really struggling with it. And some have come up with a solution. It's not what you might think. They're choosing in some cases to go to jail in pursuit of companionship. Now, it's not just companionship that they're hoping to find in jail, but that is apparently a part of it. This epidemic has gotten so bad that they are willingly doing crimes, getting caught so they can go to prison. And so CNN did some reporting where they visited Tochigi Women's Prison that's located north of Tokyo. They apparently, they talked to where at this facility where 1 in 5 inmates is elderly. They've apparently at the prison had to adjust their services to account for the aging population. By the way, the number across Japan of prisoners aged 65 and older has quadrupled over the past couple of decades. And so when you're there, you live there, obviously, and you have to work in the prison's factories, but apparently that's worth it because in exchange for that, you get regular meals, free healthcare, elder care as well. Free healthcare for older people, along with the companionship of a lot of other elderly people in there. And so this sort of reminds me on some level of stories we had heard about people talking about in America, going not for companionship. I don't know that a lot of people want that in US prisons, but going for the healthcare, going for the sort of access to these services, which limited as it is in our prisons, is virtually impossible for a lot of people on the outside. And so apparently stealing is a big way that in Japan they're getting in there. 80% of elderly female inmates were in jail for stealing. I guess that's an easy sort of almost victim-free way to get in there. They're not knocking someone off to get locked up. And so I just found this to be an interesting confluence of the economic struggles that we see getting worse over the past few years and how a lot of people feel sort of disconnected from everyone in the modern era, especially coming out of the pandemic, Francesca.
Oh my God.
And like I said, it reminded me a little bit of some of the stuff we've seen in America. And so I don't know, maybe aren't people talking about the death of third places? Maybe prison is the next third place.
Oh my God, this is like the most depressing story I've heard in a really long. What if this was your mom?
Oh my God.
What if it's your mom? And like I've done a little bit of reporting in Japan, and I think one thing that's really important to know is how overworked the Japanese population is. The working population is very overworked, and so oftentimes they rarely have time to spend with their family members or their aging parents, on and on and on, because they're just so slammed. And people who have children, there's not universal childcare there. It's really hard to, daycare is incredibly expensive. So the family unit is crumbling, and it's amazing. And it seems similar, John, to this country. It's like, oh, the only places that are still kind of like a social safety net is effing prison.
Yeah. That's crazy. And I don't know, like maybe we're all the same. We're all struggling in this way. But yeah, this can't be the solution. But apparently when you have, poverty, especially among the young going up, they say in Japan, 20% of people aged over 65 are in poverty. That's higher than across dozens of other countries. So it's a particular problem there. There are people, this is what a guard said. There are people who come here because it's cold or because they're hungry. Those who fall ill can get free medical treatment while they're in prison, but once they leave, they have to pay for it themselves. So some people want to stay here as long as possible.
Oh my God.
Yeah, what you're seeing with, and there have been some proposals by the Japanese government to try to deal with this in terms of housing and healthcare, and they're working on that. But it's just a reminder of how things, for a lot of people are right now, but particularly for the elderly, they just were 100 years ago. You get old, and if you didn't have wealth and if you didn't have family that could take care of you, you were likely to die. You'd die in a heat wave, or you'd die in a blizzard, or you'd starve to death. You wouldn't be able to treat your illnesses. And it's like we've struggled over the last couple of decades to try to get a little bit of sanity to our healthcare and our health insurance. And I see us moving back in that direction of everyone for themselves. And I don't like to see it. I don't like to see it in Japan. I don't want to see it here.
China, the blessed Communist Party, download Red Note now. No, but it's really important to know that like Japan is a neoliberal capitalist country, right? It's a hyper-capitalist country, just like South Korea and the United States and many other economies, right? And so it's like it is interesting. Like I visited Cuba, and in Cuba, there's not a lot of things to buy. Things aren't great there, but everyone has healthcare and an education. everybody. Like there's not a lot of jobs, but people will not die because they cannot pay for their healthcare. So it's like, pick your poison, man. But at this point, it's like, okay, the Cold War, we might have won, but capitalism sucks.
Members make a difference here at TYT. You help make the show happen, and we see you in the chat with your loyalty badge. Click the join button to become a member today.